I'm sure I bid on other comic books not titled Amazing Spider-Man, or at least I hope I did. Hey there, welcome to part 4 of this epic unboxing and review of my auction winnings off of HipComic from the seller Quality Comics. This is part 4 of an ongoing series where I'm going through an epic stack of comic books that I won at auction. And so far, every book that I have shown, reviewed, graded, cataloged, curated, filed away has been Amazing Spider-Man. And from the looks of the invoice, I think this is going to continue a little while longer. So if you love Amazing Spider-Man, you're in the right place. But also, if you're just interested in comic book values, the potential for pressing and cleaning, how I grade books and so forth, then I think it's worthwhile also to watch and just kind of see the types of books that I get along with the values and really why I spend the time prepping for these auctions and bidding on the books that I did. I actually just participated in the most recent Quality Comics auction and ended up not winning as many books as I typically win. And I think that's a good thing. Certainly my wallet appreciates that. But I noticed that the prep work is taking me roughly 2 hours to really sit down and prepare for an entire auction. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that these books are not listed with any conditions. So please understand too, as I go through the next stack of books here, that I am looking at scans as best I can, but also as fast as I can because I cannot spend too much time on every single scan. And this is part of the process, is figuring out a way to look at the scan of any book that you're buying online, whether it's an online store, a buy it now situation, or an auction, is you have to have the skills and the ability to kind of assess the book quickly. Now, you're not going to pick up every single defect, or maybe not even understand that the book does not have a defect. It could be a poor scan quality. It could be something on the camera. It could be the quality or the optimization of the upload. There's a lot of factors that goes into this. And I have other unboxing videos where I debate whether or not a scan is actually required or essential for you to make the decision to buy the book. So I won't get into that debate or argument here. But one of the things that I'm learning through this process too is I don't catch every defect or flaw of the book. And in some cases, I think I'm getting a great deal. And then finally, when I get the book in hand and I'm reviewing it like I'm doing here in this series, it's teaching me what things I should probably look out for when I look at the next scan. And I think that that's part of what I'm learning here, and hopefully sharing some of that information so that when you start to prepare for any auction of raw books, slabs are one thing, and there probably could be a series of kind of trying to look at what types of defects you'd have on the actual plastic case itself and whether or not that affects the value or presentation. But I'm specifically talking about raw books and tips and tricks to specifically assess a raw book and understand how to prepare and bid and win on these auctions. Now, what I've done is I've slightly lowered my range. So when I was prepping for this past auction, not necessarily the order that I'm going to go through today, I found that I lowered my range. So when I'm going through these books and I'm grading them and assessing them, what I'm finding is the average grade right now is it's just a touch under 9.0. We're talking about like an 8.92, something like that, or 8.95. It's right around 9. So I've adjusted my range to say, okay, what are my bid ranges now for an 8.5 to a 9.2? Somewhere right in the middle of that. And in some cases, if the book has more obvious flaws, like maybe it's dirtier than the average book, then I'll maybe move it back a little to 8 to 9. But right now, if you're just sort of blindly bidding on books from Quality Comics, my recommendation is, if you don't want to necessarily assess every single book, that if the scan looks decent enough and you just want to click on it, yep, that looks good, and move on, is to think about receiving it in somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9.2. And when I did that, I noticed that my max bids were a lot lower, and I ended up getting outbid on quite a few books. So I think I probably placed anywhere from 20 to 25 bids and only won, I think, 5 books. And I think what I'm realizing is with this order, I probably had my range more at a 9 to 9.4 or even a 9.2 to 9.6. So that's probably why I won more books from their December auction. And speaking of, let's get to the next stack. I haven't looked at them, so it could be Amazing Spider-Man again, but there are some non-Spider-Man books in this order. However, I don't know if it really matters because all of the books are around the same age. And I think that that's something that I'm trying to incorporate too, is a really familiar and understanding of a book of the same age, the same paper quality, the same types of defects that you'll start to see over and over as you grade books and you consider whether or not you would clean and press a book and so on. So I'm really, really looking for reps and consistency. And with that, I will show you the next stack of books that I picked up at auction. All right, let's get to it. I pull the stack over here, and I think I'm going to count out 6 books this time. Oh, I've got some that are face up, so I'll know for next time. Oh, no spoilers. No spoilers. Let's hide that. Oh, you probably saw that. Well, at least part 5 will not have Spider-Man if you saw that. So here are the next 6 books. And the first one is Amazing Spider-Man 274. This is another Secret Wars 2 tie-in. This is a Larry Liebert, John Romita Sr. cover. A lot of these Spider-Man books with sort of the floating heads, kind of even called like the Romita heads. We got Beyonder, Mephisto, Green Goblin. Poor Spidey, he's just always tormented by all of his friends and foes. And yeah, just checking the condition of this book. Spine looks to be in great condition. Maybe a little bit of a spine tick or a dent there. And then I think what I've started to do is figure out, okay, when you look at a book like this and you're like, I really don't see anything wrong with it. Looks amazing, pun intended. So what's the catch, right? Why bid on these books? It looks great. It looks 9.8. Let's move it aside, right? There's always something, and that's what I've noticed is that this seller, when they're going through their books, you can almost like picture like if you're buying a collection and you're going through all of the books and you're like, I want to basically cherry pick out books that I would submit for grading as is. You know, I do this when I'm buying brand new books. I think that most of them, you know, fall under the 9.8 candidate category, but some of them are 9.8s and some of them aren't. And I cherry pick out the 9.8s and set them aside for a future pre-screen. This is kind of the same thing. You know they're doing that, so you're not going to get any of those 9.8s. What you have to figure out is why did this one not make the cut? And it's right here. Right here on the corner, you can see it right through the bag even. There is a corner crunch right on that. Now, the good news is that that is a pressable defect right there. It does not break color. So that is what I look for, is I look for books that they essentially throw out and put up at auction that have pressable defects. This spine does not have a single color breaking spine tick, but it does have that corner crunch. So this is something where, with the crunch being what it is, it's probably at least a 9.4, but probably less. You know, looking at the back, there's probably some general dirt or filth on there. So, you know, again, it's right in line with the average grade, like I mentioned, being just a touch, you know, or maybe rounding up to the next full grade of about a 9.0. But this is why I do what I do, because now I know if I'm going to participate in an auction run by Quality Comics, I'm probably on average getting 9.0 quality. And remember, I'm a harsh grader, so some of those 9.0s could be 9.2 or it could be 9.4, but I like to stick. But I'd rather be wrong in the right direction than overgrade or be disappointed. So that looks like a great candidate for pressing to get out that corner crunch and hopefully improve it up from a 9 or a 9.2. Next is Amazing Spider-Man 276. And if you're not dealing with kind of throwbacks to these Romita heads, you've got the Hobgoblin right in this era. So lots of issues related to the Hobgoblin, lots of different storylines. Spidey always trying to unmask him, and there's Hobgoblin 2 and 3. And again, looking at the condition, trying to figure out, okay, what gives on this one? Where's the big defect? This one looks pretty good. It does have some stacking crease issues right in here, you can see. And then it looks like just general dirt, especially in the trade. I see just some dirt up in here. And this could be a book that would need to go through a wet cleaning process. And I know Adam asked me, really, what do I mean by that? And at minimum, it would just be taking a makeup pad, getting it slightly damp with distilled water, and just giving it a light wipe down. A lot of times that's all you need to do to lift up that surface dirt. And since it's adding just a little bit of moisture to the paper, it's able to kind of press out a little bit more nicely and evenly as well. Oh boy, we have our first book that is not titled Amazing Spider-Man. We have New Teen Titans number 23, the first appearance of Blackfire. And while, at this time there was the kind of like the X-Men versus the Teen Titans. I know they even had a crossover at one point, but in terms of just readership and the fan base, and I certainly sided with the X-Men. But you have to respect and appreciate New Teen Titans, especially the George Perez artwork. And with Starfire, Blackfire, the Titans drifting out into space there, just a fantastic book. And thought for the condition that at least I saw in the scan, it was worth the price I paid. And same thing, this spine looks to be great. I don't see really anything at first glance. And then just checking out the bottom, we've got another corner crunch candidate for fixing right in here. That could be color breaking right on the corner. I think it is. So again, that's going to prevent this book from being a 9.8, but still a very, very high grade, nice copy of New Teen Titans 23. So interesting that slipped in there with all of these other Amazing Spider-Man, and right back to it. You get one, I guess, is what Quality Comics is saying. This is Amazing Spider-Man 205. I talked about this last time. Black Cat first appearance in 194, and she appeared again a few times right after her first appearance, and always loved grabbing those early Black Cat appearances. Then she also appeared early on around the same time frame in Spectacular Spider-Man. So she immediately became a hit character in the series right in the early 80s. So these are very collectible, not only because it's Amazing Spider-Man, but specifically for the Black Cat appearances. Obviously, this is miswrapped. This is another kind of common condition that I would see. You have a miswrapped copy, no real color breaks or spine ticks other than what's on the lighter portion of the cover now. It's essentially the back cover that's wrapping around. And a lot of these, you see these like smudges or just dirt spots along the spine. And again, just kind of giving that a general wipe down. I will kind of do the wipe down second. When I see this, I will dry clean with an eraser. And what I end up doing is I just take a backing board and I'll lay it right next to the spine so that I don't erase any color, and just very, very gently and lightly do a little bit of erasing along the side. Again, I'm not trying to really do anything crazy. I don't want to further damage the book. I don't want to add my own defects or dents into the spine. But I think that is something too that they see when they see a miswrap book. They see some dirt and just go, yep, not a 9.8, and they throw it aside. But structurally, the book looks very, very nice. So love this. Got Black Cat right on the cover of ASM 205. Let me flip this around. And this is Amazing Spider-Man 206. This and the previous book were around $10 each. Again, I feel like these are 40-cent covers from 1980, and Amazing Spider-Man in high grade in that 9.0 to 9.4 type of range. I think $10 is a really good pickup price, and this looks to be in great shape as well. Same thing, miswrapped, yes. Actually, not as dirty as 205 was. I could see a little bit of creasing up here, but not bad. This one looks all right. Also up here as well, so this is where maybe a little bit of steam and humidity right along the top edge would kind of let the top relax a little bit. But I like this one, another high-grade Amazing Spider-Man pickup. And the last book is also not Amazing Spider-Man, which is awesome, just to get a little variety in here. And this is the Eternals number 14. And with Eternals being really kind of out of the mainstream, I would say initially, it's like at some point, you just know they're sitting around the Marvel offices in the late 70s going, we got to get our big characters into the story to help tie things in, probably boost a little sales or interest. And there we have Hulk right there, who ends up battling the Eternals here. But the Eternals movie has come and gone, and a lot of the attention, I don't think people were really thinking about the Eternals other than their opinions on the movie itself. And now I'm able to go back and get a lot of these issues retroactively, so to speak, just because prior to the movie, prior to the buildup, I think a lot of people were collecting Eternals. And there's going to be a sequel. I've talked about this before. I'm not so much concerned with the attachment or the direct one-to-one tie-in with any sort of MCU properties or shows or films. But it's still interesting to me, even if they're sort of loosely connected at this point. And just looking at the condition of this one, I remember from the scan, this one looked really, really nice. It does have a little bit of a dent here, so it's just kind of a little bit of a treasure hunt, so to speak, where you're just going through and saying, where is that one little defect or one bit of damage, or is it just general dirt, or I don't know, but what is that one thing that Quality Comics said, we don't want to keep this book and we're going to offer it up at auction specifically because we don't think it can get a 9.8 and we'd rather sell it because we already cherry picked the better books out of here. But this is exciting for me. I got a couple of books that aren't Amazing Spider-Man. I love the variety, but what I like is that they're all kind of the same type of book. It's got the same paper. It's around late 70s to early 80s time frame. So what this has been doing for me is not only helping me understand types of defects, values, conditions, but also I've been able to put together a regular cleaning and pressing routine that specifically works for this era of comic books. And I hope to document that process once I am able to build a little bit more confidence in myself to complete the steps successfully. And then I would like to send a stack of these books that I have cleaned and pressed personally off to CGC where I can see the results. And then I feel like once I get that first stack back and I see the results and I see the grades improve from what I originally graded them as, then I can truly feel like I've got a very viable and established process for finding books under the radar, under fair market value, where I can work on them and consistently improve the book and get the results that I'm looking for. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.